3 things that I have concluded. Yes, I am writing it in reverse order to keep the tension. So the 3 things that I have decided, or that I have constructed together over the past 7 years, which is a really simple white label platform that you can just throw in your situation in and get a, like, you know, falls through this whole system and then like spits out a result. This will most probably give that to you. So the very first thing to ask is to know, what is the goal? What do you want? Okay? Who of you guys have had completely just enough of goal setting? Okay? To be quite honest. Okay? Fair enough. I must say, me as well. But the very first thing we need to realize, now I do this with people, with my one-on-one coaching, I identify the life condition, people are like, oh, you're so right. It's actually a really simple formula. Just work out what it is right now, what did you expect it to be, what's the mismatch, what is the gap. Fantastic. How are you going to get from where you are right now to where you want to be? That's what we will be going into the next 10 days. That is the job of a life coach. Not giving them the advice, but asking them, how are you going to get yourself to where you are right, to where you want to go, to move from where you are to where you want to go. That is basically what you're going to do as a life coach. But we're going to get to that right now. But then I ask people, okay, now Ruth, or whoever the person might be, now that you are not happy with that specific life condition, now what did you want it to look like? And people can tell me like 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. Yeah, I want it to look like this and this and this. And what else? Well, I don't want it to look like this and 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 this. And what I figured out was people, and studies have shown that we are 7 times more likely to look at the negatives than we are looking at the positives, because let's say we grew up in the Paleolithic era and then we were walking in the bush and we were hunting and then whoosh, we heard a rustle in the bush. What happens? Cortisol, that is the stress hormone, had to release so that everything in your body, like this fight or flight, kicks in. Okay, at that specific moment, the body is reserving all energy and resources, pushing it to the brain, to the prefrontal cortex, to everything to make rational, quick decisions. And what happens? Okay, your nails your hair stops growing, everything in that moment stops to function, and you decide to get fight or flight, and before you know it, okay, there's a little rabbit jumping out, boom, everything goes back to normal. Okay? If there was a lion, it would have been a different story. Now, keeping that in mind, what our jobs are basically doing at the moment in our lives is, it's almost like, imagine like a drip, dripping cortisol constantly. Especially if it's a job that you hate. Now, I'm not saying all of our jobs, most of our jobs. And what is happening is you're constantly on a subconscious fight or flight mode. Fight or flight, fight or flight. What happens when you go into fight or flight? It shuts down the system. It shuts down all of the workings. Why? Because the body needs to put energy and resources to the mind. Because the mind needs to make a decision. But now it's not a threat, life or death. It's a constant every single day at work. Because we have no security that what we're going to do and we're our job and the boss and the this and the that. And what is happening, our jobs, not all of us, please note, but most of our jobs, if we go to a job that we really do not like, is basically indirectly, physically killing us. That is why, that is stress. Stress is, your system just almost stops functioning. So if you, so what I then started to realize is people know what they do not want. So then I started going more into that. Also, a lot of work, a lot of what I'm going to say right now comes out of the work of Dr. Jordan Peterson, clinical psychologist from the University of Toronto. He wrote a book, 12 Rules for Life, which is, get the book. 12 rules for life. The amount of time I have punted Jordan Peterson, well, I would have been a millionaire by now. But there's a reason, he's phenomenal. So what I say, the very first thing that you need to do, first of all, is you need to say you are here. When you go onto a GPS and you say that you want to drive to OR Tambo right now because you have a flight to catch, the GPS first needs to know where you are. So you first need to understand where you are by identifying the life condition and the blueprint, the expectation. Now, once again, a lot of people don't know what the blueprint is. They have like one or two little things that they have in their mind, this picture, but other than that, they don't know what they want. But they do know what they do not want. So you first need to figure out where you are. Now, going back, what you want to do is you want to go and do two things. You want to go and define your little heaven. Okay? If you stop doing the stupid things that you know you should stop doing, and if you actually took care of yourself like someone you are responsible for and that you love, because the dog can have this small little limb, okay, and you will take it to the vet, but you will almost die before you go to the doctor. What will happen if you start taking care of yourself like you're taking care of your children? How will your life then start to look? So how will your life look like if you start taking care of yourself like someone you are responsible for and someone that you love? How will that look like? How will it look like, Sitelo, when you start getting out of your comfort zone a little bit more, you start eating a bit more healthy, working a little bit more, doing a little bit more of what is expected of you? How will your heaven look like? And you want to make that as compelling as possible. Karen, how will your life look like if you start doing life coaching and start going into the direction where you want to go in? What will that look like? What is that heaven for yourself? And make it compelling. Make sure that there is value attached to that heaven. The second thing that you want to do is you want to go and define your hell. Now, a lot of people don't normally talk about this part. Now, this part is that I want to hammer on because this is of crucial importance. Your little hell. Lindy, how will your life look like if you keep on doing the stupid things you know you should stop doing? If you keep doing those things, you keep on doing those things, and it starts to gain a bit of momentum, and things starts to go a bit south, and you start staying in your comfort zone a little bit more, and if you exercise Maudi a little bit less, and you stay in your comfort zone a little bit more, you do, Ruth, you do a little bit less of what is expected of you, and it starts to gain a bit of momentum, and you start losing yourself a little bit, and things start to go a bit south. How will that look like 6 months, a year from now? And you want to make sure that you define it in a way that it is a place you want to stay the hell away from. Why? First things first, is incredibly important to define your heaven and your hell. You first need to write it down, because Sitelo, nothing that is, let's take a step back. Something that is not yet defined does not exist. Okay? It is like unexplored territory. It's like Carl Jung would say, it is the darkness, the unknown. It's like you will not know how that part of the garden looks like. You know, that garden, that part of the garden that's so dark and whatever the case might be. until you don't go and shed some light on the unexplored territory. It's like when you move into a new house. I've recently moved into a new place, so I can relate to that. So the house is still not yet 100% yours, Ruth, if you haven't cleaned all of the small little crevices and dark places and stuck your hand into all of those little places. The house still not yet 100% belongs to you if you have not done that, because you have put your hand into unexplored territory. You have made the unknown known to yourself, and now the mind has defined that, and now you know what it is. Make sense?
It does.
So something that is not yet defined does not exist in the mind. So just imagine this, Karen, you have children? So you had your first child, fantastic. What's the name? Oh, I have it in my name, but we're not going to use it. Yeah, but what's the name? Oh, I've got it in my mind. I know what I want, and I know what the name is, but we're not going to write it down and so. Okay, but how can you attach any characteristic to your child? Their idiosyncratic behaviors that they have that makes them who they are. How can you put any of those characteristics and attributes to your child if they do not have a name? Very interesting if we go look at some religious books. If we go look at the Bible, for example, God spoke things into existence. There's a very, very profound power in the power of speech. If you think about speech, language, what is language? The very first thing they do, they teach you how to spell your ABCs, right? Okay. Now, what is a spell in almost like an existential, metaphorical, whatever? It's a magic spell that I cast. So language is in effect magic. Okay? It also says in that book that you'll have to give account for every single idle word that you have spoken. Wow. So, I want you to realize the crucial importance of writing and defining this for yourself. Actually, Karen sitting down and closing the door. No one's going to disturb me for the next hour, and I'm going to write this down. I'm going to sit down and write it down, because what will happen is your little heaven, your heaven, will pull you. This is what we call pull motivation. This is normally you are inspired to want to do something. Something drags you, something pulls you forward. What certain people say, what's your North Star? What is pulling you to do something? So that will create pull motivation. And your little hell will create push motivation. Push motivation is so. Now you have your North Star, the thing that pulls you forward. But now, let's say I have not yet defined my hell. It means that my hell, remember, in our minds we have this picture of where we do not want to end up, but we don't define it, so it doesn't actually exist, okay? So what happens now is that stands before me. Now I actually go sit down, really think about it, and now I write down how that hell will look like. And what happens now is I get this to stand in front of me, to go and stand behind me, because I've now defined it, Michelle. And what happens now, this is a push motivation. So what happens now is if I'm a little bit lackadaisical and I don't do what I'm supposed to do, what happens if I start moving to that direction again, because I have defined it, I can start to realize, whoa, this is not where I want to go, I need to turn around. Because if I had a pen, I would write this down. Change. Now, change can be good, change can be bad. Let's talk about good change. Change only happens when the pain of staying the same. Change for the better. Okay, so change only happens when the pain of staying the same exceeds the pain to change. Change only happens when the pain of staying the same far exceeds the pain to change. Franco, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is the following. Let's take my mom, for example. Okay? Like many other ladies, she struggled with her weight she was in really good shape for a long period of her life, and then like 45, she just started she started really struggling with weight, up and down, up and down, up and down, like most ladies out there. Okay. And what happened was, she went to the doctor. She started feeling a bit like weird and stuff. She went to the doctor. They took her sugar, and her sugar levels was 15. They told her, you need to start looking at what you're eating. And then she went back to the doctor again, and it was like 14.7. And then they basically diagnosed her with diabetics. Basically, she said she's a diabetic. Okay? Now, we don't utter that word in our house, or when I used to stay with them. And we just did not accept that. And my mom started, for years and years and years, her weight was up and down, up and down, up and down. In a moment when a doctor said those words to her, in that moment, she's like, it made sense to her. If I am going to continue the way I am continuing right now, living the lifestyle that I'm living right now, the pain to stay the same has, in that moment, the scales of staying the same tipped. And she realized the pain of staying the same is going to exceed the pain to change. She realized, if I'm going to keep on going the way I'm going on right now, Ernest, if I'm going to keep on eating and having the lifestyle that I'm having and doing and not exercising and, I might not see my son getting married one day. Well, he first needs to find a girlfriend, but I mean, see him getting married one day. She might not see her daughter getting married one day. She might not see her son's grandkids or her grandkids one day. She might leave the family a bit earlier. It will maybe put more financial stress on the situation. It will put far more emotional stress on the children and her husband, and. In that moment, the scales tipped, the pain of staying the same tipped in the favor of staying the same. And what happened? She made the changes. Will it be difficult for her, Ernest, to start eating more healthy? Will it be difficult? Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Yeah. Will it be difficult to get her ass into the gym? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a painful journey. But that is not nearly as bad as what it will look like when she stays the same. Simple. Okay? Then the second thing that we have here is the how.